Bonjour, je suis not manly, ici le voyage d'espace, je ne sais quoi. Welcome to part 18, where we finally go back to unknown territory here with Lindor, the second gas giant of the system, 16,000 kilometers across, almost 25 Kerbins in mass, and 5 satellites, Krell, Aiden, Huygens, Rija, and Talos. Another very busy place. A day is 7 and a bit hours, the orbital period is almost 30 years, but the inclination is pretty mild here, not too bad for a seasoned Kerbal Space Program player, just like for Joule. Delta V to get out here, just under 3.8 kilometers per second to eject. Capturing is a little less expensive than Joule at about 3.8. You cannot land on this world, and the hazardous altitude is a little higher at 12 kilometers up. It is a more beautiful world here even than Joule. There are 7 cloud biomes more than Joule has, and it has that lower delta V requirement that I pointed out here for capturing. The problem is this is definitely a late game target. It takes a very long time to get out here, 5 years and a bit, and just like Joule, well, you're really here for the moons. And there we go. When we last left our heroes, we were getting them ready for the trip out to Lindor. These are the remaining 2 rovers for Huygens and Rija, and also the inner and outer relay satellites for Lindor. We're going to attach those to the second Pain train that is still on its way back from Joule on this launch. And there we go. A very similar relay setup for Joule. And the rovers are very similar as well, but like the Talos rover, they are designed to land and return to orbit. And there we go, and we've already seen this, Valentina bringing up our brave heroes up to the Lindor 6 main craft in our single stage to orbit spaceplane here. Not bad at all. 30 days later, we sent these guys out on their way. I found I had to do my ejection at reaching periapsis here because I would have hit Kerbin's atmosphere, and I don't know what that would have done to the sail on this Medusa nuclear pulse. Probably would have shredded it, or sent the craft wildly spinning or something. So I ended up waiting until we were some ways out past periapsis before actually doing the ejection. Didn't matter, this craft has delta V for weeks, just like before. With it fully topped up, we have in excess of 70 kilometers per second. Pretty much just like Joule, we're not even going to bother showing you the numbers. This ejection does take some time though, but that should be okay. We don't have any heating issues to worry about for this design. We're only using the quarter megaton bombs after all. I haven't tried using stronger ones yet. Hopefully we won't need to either for this. Come on. This craft is wobbling quite a bit there. Chris is having a hard time keeping this thing under control. I thought we strutted this thing up pretty well, but it is a different package, so maybe it has some problems with some of the joints on those rovers. I don't know. But hey, that's okay. As long as we get reasonably close here, we can then do adjustments with our precision thrusters and get our Lindor periapsis down to a reasonable number. We can also fix our inclination somewhat so that we can do a plane change much further out as we get closer to Lindor. Now don't worry about that ascending node. We do some adjustments to fix that so it comes back later on. Bye bye guys! We'll get back in contact with you in about 5.5 years. Hope you guys can keep busy until then. Now while that was going on, Doug was refueling and rearming the second Pain train, attaching and strutting up the relay satellites, and then returning the rearming craft back down to the surface of Kerbin. The problem was, on this return, I couldn't quite reach land. Talk about so close. And there was a reason why I didn't want to hit water. Yeah. And there we go. There's about 10 megatons of bombs on its way down to the ocean. Fortunately, we don't lose those. It just kind of comes apart, and we're able to recover the bits and bobs later on. It's pretty shallow over here, after all. Alright, there we go there, Doug. We'll bring you back nice and safe, and we'll recover all the bits and bobs from the shore there. Well, could have been worse, I suppose. And there we go. After the initial ejection, we do some course correction while still within Kerbin's sphere of influence. We had the same problem as we did trying to get out to Jool. The game would lock up, so I would wait until I was much further out before doing my adjustments. I use a Huygens gravity assist here to wipe off the majority of the insertion requirement there. I'm pretty sure we wiped off, a good 2.5 kilometers per second with that. Not bad though. We're never going to get a perfect capture this far out, but that's okay. Part of the problem is Huygens' atmosphere is so thick, we don't want to approach it too close. In fact, I set periapsis just above 200 kilometers there. Look at that. There we go. And we have one of the JX2 antennas fully extended so we don't lose signal, and we're still facing the sun there, as you can see there, so we have no problem maintaining signal during this capture maneuver. Then we do some adjustments here. We set our apoapsis for 720,000 kilometers for reasons that I will explain in just a bit. We're going to drop off the outer relay collection there. It has its own twitch engines and fuel tanks. It should be able to complete the orbital maneuvers it needs to insert those satellites into their permanent orbits. And then we're going to use old Boom Boom here to bring the inner relay satellites much closer to Lindor. So we'll need a lot more delta V for the inner relay insertion than for the outer one. There we go, we'll get that all redocked. You also see the science bombs there, that was sent up with the inner relay crafts. We've got the same configuration we used for Jool, and the same designs for those atmospheric probes worked just fine on Lindor as it did on Jool. Little wobbly there because we don't have any strutting, but that's okay. Then we'll get this down to 70,000 kilometers, there we go. And then we got the outer relays up to 720,000. And speaking of the outer relays, here's the plan for getting them into their positions. And there we go. So again, apoapsis is 720,000 kilometers. The booster's going to have an 80-day orbit period, and we're going to save the booster to avoid leaving space junk. Each relay satellite is going to have an orbit period of 120 days, and it only needs about 300 meters per second each to get up there. It seems a lot easier out here. It's just beyond the orbit of Talos, and it'll have no problem relaying signals back into the inner part of the system. And there we go. The inner system is a different matter though. We set apoapsis to 70,000 kilometers. The relay booster is going to be 2 days and 8 hours because I was shooting for a 4-hour orbital period for the inner relays, and we're going to drop the trusses off in Lindor's atmosphere. Well, that didn't quite work out because I found out that each relay needed 500 meters per second, and we don't quite have that. We got 480. Oh boy, that's going to be a problem. Oops. Our orbit period, though, is at 3 days, 11 minutes, and 3 days, 11 hours, 17 minutes. Fortunately, the other satellites had enough delta V to have the same orbit period, so hey, not a problem. We still have 3 satellites in the inner part of the system. Now, before we drop off these science bombs, we're going to go to a polar orbit, just like we did for Jool. And then we're going to drop them off and then disconnect the pain train to get it ready to send back to Kerbin, because this pain train has a lot of life left in it. Assuming we can maintain signal, because we have a bigger problem. When we extend that sail, we're down to like almost no signal. Fortunately, it's almost, and we still have enough to maintain control. Don't worry, we've got a cunning plan to fix that before we send the pain train back to Kerbin. There we go. Now while that was going on, we were planning our insertion for the main mission craft. I did some experimentation here. It takes just over 900 meters per second to capture using Huygens here to get to a decent high AP. And there we go. So I thought, okay, what happens if we tried capturing at Rija instead? Well, it takes an additional 200 or and a bit meters per second, or a little less than that. So the difference is you can get closer to Rija with its lower atmosphere, 100 kilometers up. So hey, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, depends on your favorite flight profile. Depends on where you're going. Hey, if you're doing a direct trip to Huygens, why not just capture right there? Anyway, we are approaching Lindor. We've got KerbNet up there. This craft has a dedicated Rove Mate probe aboard there, so we have 100% detection rate for anomalies. Obviously the surface of Lindor is not going to have anomalies, but hey, that's okay. We can get a good close look at these biomes. We have 7 cloud bands here above Lindor, 2 more than Jewel. Many with the same names, but we've got 2 different storm decks, we've got 2 different poles. We got all kinds of interesting stuff over here. Look at that. As we approach Huygens, we take a look around for anomalies. Nothing yet. Maybe there aren't any. I'm not convinced that the additional worlds have anomalies. We got pretty lucky above Edna, but hey, who knows? We might just find something up here yet. The science flavor texts, however, are very generic. They're not using anything unique for Huygens. They weren't using anything unique for Lindor either. So, hey, if you want to contribute these, go talk to Team Galileo, see what they have to say. Maybe we can make something up for these places. Hey, maybe we can invent some after completing the JNSQ exploration series. I turned the ambient light right down to stock here, just to see how dark it is out here, and my goodness, look at that. It's like a giant flashlight almost. And as Huygens here eclipses the sun, it will actually turn blue for a little bit before disappearing completely. Look at that. Kind of like Duna in that respect. Not bad at all. So we go back into a polar orbit with this craft as well, just like we did for Jewel, so we can get our nice low space passes. It will also be safe within the rings, so we're not colliding with the rings. These rings are cosmetic only, so they don't actually shred any craft, but still, hey, why take a chance, eh? Let's just go inside the rings. And speaking of the rings, look at that. You might need to turn the contrast right up on your monitor or go to full screen or something, because YouTube might mess with these. But on my PlayStation 4, these things turned out really nicely. Look at that. Nice approach there on those rings. Again, I've got the ambient brightness set down to stock here, just to appreciate just how dim it is out here where the sun is. Look at that. Lightning strikes across the clouds above Lindor's datum level. I can't really say surface. Lindor is an ice giant, supposed to be actually an analog of Neptune rather than an analog of Saturn. It has Neptune's very faint rings compared to Saturn's very bright and gorgeous ones, yet it seems to have Saturn-like moons. There we go. Here is Roberta Lynn Kerman in the darkness, with her EVA headlight being the biggest source of light out here. Again, the science flavor texts are nothing special, they're just the generic ones, but the science points are definitely real as far as this game is concerned. And there we go. Not a bad multiplier here for low space above Lindor. More shots of those gorgeous rings, and just to appreciate just how dark it is out here. One more pass above the South Pole and we'll get a proper look at Lindor from both sides. Come on. Hey, camera, stop messing with us. And there we go. Galileo team went out of their way to make Lindor a very gorgeous ice giant. Well done, folks. And one last shot here of those rings. Again, you might need to mess with the contrast, but look at that. And we'll catch a glimpse of the shadow projected onto the rings as well. Beautiful. And now that Roberta, Chris, and Jenny Ann are done here, we're going to send our science bombs into Lindor's atmosphere. I go for 300 kilometers up just like I did for Jewel. The same probe design for Jewel works in Lindor as well. It looks much like Jewel with the swirly clouds, just it's blue instead of green, not a problem. I'm watching for signal carefully there. We're using a polar orbit, remember, to insert, and this has a very high rotation speed at 7 hours for a day. So there's going to be some crosswind here, but once I see that dynamic pressure is high enough, I turn off SAS and let aerodynamics do its thing. Look at that, and it enters Lindor's atmosphere safely. Now we're going to get to see Lindor's rings transiting across the sun here. I can just see them here. They are coming up. They will disappear as it crosses the sun, but then they'll reappear shortly after. Look at that. Looks like we've crossed the equator. The rings are now on the other side of the sun. Absolutely gorgeous. Now I was hoping that the batteries would have recharged enough during this re-entry that we could start sending some low atmosphere science. Well, it almost worked. Well, we'll see in just a bit. Okay, well, we're not quite there yet. We need a little more charge for that, but we're not even regaining control yet. There we go. No, we still don't quite have enough control. There we go. Transmit, transmit, transmit. And we'll drop off those heat shields because we don't need them anymore. I don't know what happened there, but we're transmitting for our lives here. That atmospheric fluid spectrovariometer just has so much data that we miss it by just under 1%. Oh well, I guess it's just a matter of waiting for this thing to recharge. Hopefully it stays in the atmosphere long enough for it to work. I have just 2 RTGs in there after all. But Lindor's atmosphere is actually more dense, which actually slows the craft down at lower altitudes more so. So we do get that extra time there. There's the shadow of the rings through Lindor's atmosphere. Come on. Let's get those batteries more charged up. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Looks like a Lindor sunset's going to be yellow. Hey, not bad. Oh, come on, transmit, transmit, transmit. Come on, this is about as low as we can go without blowing up. 90... 100! Oh boy, we got our lower atmosphere science. I don't know which moon is causing that eclipse, but boy, it looks gorgeous. But we're getting pretty low here. We're gonna blow up at 4,000 kilopascals, or just under 40 atmospheres, just like last time. Come on. There we go. At 11,750 meters, we hit fatal pressure. Now, just like Joule, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing again. We send the truss structure down deep into Joule's atmosphere, and we send the probe into a deeper... Well, not that deep. I got a little carried away there with the time warp. Oh boy, only in Kerbal Space Program can you time warp through a thick atmosphere and come back out the other end unscathed. Oh well, let's try that again. Now, I went for a steeper re-entry just to push the limits of this craft. I wanted to get into a different cloud band, and I thought this might be the only way to do it. Oh, come on, there we go. Well, we do get deeper down there, and we end up hitting dynamic pressures well above normal there. There we go, high dynamic pressures. And G-forces are well in excess of 15 Gs. If I had an accelerometer aboard here, I would have been able to tell what that was, but I didn't know if I could have used it. Anyway, pretty strong in any case. But we do survive re-entry, and we don't lose any parts. We end up colliding with one of the heat shields, but that's okay. We came out of it in one piece, and we got some atmospheric science from a different biome. Not bad at all. It was worth extra. And there we go. The rest of the science wasn't anything new, but that's okay. Now, one thing that always kind of bothered me was the two gas giants here. We didn't get any volumetric clouds, and it's kind of too bad. But I don't know if that can be fixed. These surfaces are so large, maybe they can't account for them. Anyway, we're gonna see just how deep we can go here. We'll do just the same thing we did at Joule, turn off pressure limits, turn off max temperature, and just see what it looks like when we get down to datum level. Same kind of problem with the clouds. We got that kind of hole in the ground. Well, for what resembles ground here anyway. But around 12 kilometers is when things start heating up. You can see the skin temperatures going up. Yep, there we go. Hazardous body, radiation. There we go. Nothing we can do about that. Unless you start messing with the game or turning on cheats, you're not going to be able to get any lower than this. Oh boy. It's full of blue and purple down here. Definitely not full of stars. Anyway, bye-bye probe. Okay. And there we go. Oh, look underneath here. Oh, you can see the cloud layers down here. Not bad at all. Anyway, let's turn off all the cheats and get back to normal. Get ready for our approach to Krell. Until then, I'm not manly. Fly safe.